went down this week. A lot of playoff implication games went down. Every week that passes by, that playoff picture is getting closer and closer. Casper, buddy. Well, I'm Big Drewski. I'm your host. I got Casper, my co-host here. It's bittersweet, but we're like 5 weeks away from being into the season.
Thank God.
It's been a grind. I've loved every second of it, but me and Casper, we're looking forward to like taking it slow this off season, man. We've been grinding.
Yeah.
This is only episode 5 of this show because why not start a brand new show in the middle of the season? But for those of you that listen to the Little Tangerine Show, that's our Vols breakdown show, which the last episode is depressing. Don't go listen to it. But
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So, CFB Top 25 show, though, man. We love doing this one. We love getting to talk about the entire scope of college football. If you do happen to be Vols fans, or you just want to listen to incoherent ramblings, check out the other show. This one's a little bit more serious. We want to give you just enough to sound popular or smart at the water cooler. I don't know why, but for some reason my voice inflection made me think of like Seinfeld. No, you gotta do what you gotta do. It's the best. Okay. Anyways,
It's like Ricky Bobby because you don't know what to do with your hands.
CFB Top 25 news. Michigan stealing signs. Now this started as like they may or may not be cheating. Now it's like they may or may not be like getting into some serious trouble vacating wins. Like it's
Yeah.
I guess like a full-fledged investigation now, but basically if you do not know what happened, Michigan was sending members of their staff to opposing schools games, and they were videotaping what was going on the sidelines. That is illegal. Okay. It's one of those things, and I think Casper, I think you're the one that said this, or maybe I seen it on like game day or something, but everybody cheats, but they pushed it too far and got caught.
Right.
It's kind of like you can't videotape what's going on the sidelines. Like Casper pointed out, that's why, like, if you watch the Vols game and a lot of these other teams, they got the big black curtains and stuff behind them. That is to see the calls easier, but it is also to try to deter people from doing that best they can, but you just can't do it.
Yep. I'm really curious to see how this gets called because I think, which we'll talk about here very shortly going in the show, but I think Michigan right now is on a tear, possibly to win a natty. I hope this didn't happen this year because they're a good football team and they might be pissing it all away. And they're not good because they were stealing signs, just for the record. I'm not one of those guys, but
Yeah.
This is big time stuff right here. This could be having Harbaugh going to the NFL because he's not gonna be able to coach in college. So, we'll see what happens with it. But we'll have
major. This is major stuff. Like this is not. They don't play around with this stuff, man. And a lot of people not happy. And I think both of us. I think we said it last week. Michigan's kind of our number one team right now on our unofficial rankings. Not good, man, because they're looking like they could make a serious run. So I'm really interested to see what happens. We will give you guys more details as they emerge. Casper's got a note. Iowa punt return for touchdown called back.
Yeah, this is a top 25 game, but Iowa playing Minnesota in the battle of the no scores there. Fourth quarter, minute 30 to go. Iowa returns a punt for a touchdown. They end up calling it back, saying he called a fair catch. He did not put his arm up like this. He did one of these out to the side numbers, like kind of circling his arms like this. As he was pointing at the ball, which is usually what you do when you're telling everybody to like get away. The referees called that a fair catch, brought the ball back. Iowa loses the game. If they see that touchdown on the board, Iowa wins this football game. And so it's big time play. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Interesting. Not sure how I feel about it, but yeah, they did hit the under in that 29-point over-under game. So
yeah, Iowa's a good football team. They've got virtually no offense, but their defense is pretty stout, man. But yeah, it's unfortunate we see things like that affect the football game. Refs, you got to love it until we get, bots out there. I guess this is, it is what it is. Arkansas fires offense coordinator Dan Enos after 6 losses. Man, we had that arc. So for the record, me and Casper, we were grilling out with our buddy T Fitty this weekend for the Vols Bama game, third Saturday in October. We had as many screens going as we could. We watched as much as we could. We were slightly inebriated, but we had this Arkansas game on, and it was a great game. Came down to the wire, but man, they just couldn't get it rolling. Arkansas fires their offensive coordinator halfway through the season, and we've talked about this. Arkansas is not a bad team, man. They've lost some tough ones to some pretty good teams, kind of similar to Texas A&M last year. Few plays, couple points, whatever, away from 5 or 6 different times from having a totally different season. So, interested to see what happens there. I don't know. That one's rough. Any thoughts on that one?
They almost beat Bama last week, yet they fired their OC. Tennessee, take notes. Anyways, moving on. What's that about Caleb Williams?
Oh, Caleb Williams. Now, here's the deal. We try to be as down the middle on this show as we can. We try to just look at things for what they are. Both of us picked Bama to win last week. We try to be, non-sided. However, in the case of Caleb Williams, sir, no, if you draft me, I want ownership because I've been beating up on community schools and California all year. Sir Caleb Williams goes 0-3 against Utah. 0-3. Utah is his kryptonite. Also, USC has now dropped 2 games this year. Now, this one was a close one. It is of note, but we're talking about a Utah without Cam Rising as well. They're talking about a medical red shirt on Cam Rising at this point. He still has not played. But this is Caleb Williams. This guy was supposed to be, winning his second Heisman this year and, all that, like the second coming of I don't know, Cam Newton or whatever. And we get into the rough games and he starts fumbling, which I think both of us said we severely doubted USC on any kind of playoff run as far as coming out of the Pac-12. But yeah, USC, man, that's the second loss, Thoughts on that one, Casper? I mean, we're going to get into it here in a minute, but
we'll talk. I'm not talking about the game, but just Caleb Williams overall, man. I think his draft stock is going down this week. I think that whole crap for him coming out about he's won ownership and then he goes and loses again to a team that apparently he can't beat that they should beat.
Did you say he was like eating gummy bears on the
I saw
sideline
a
or something?
picture on Facebook that he was eating gummy worms on the sidelines. It's just if I'm an NFL owner and there's somebody in college football that hasn't played a single snap professional ball and they're eating gummy worms on the sideline and telling people they want to own part of my team, I really, his draft stock has got to be falling by the minute, in my opinion. So that's pretty much all I got.
I mean, as you pointed out, USC, up until the Notre Dame game, they were falling each week in the rankings despite winning, which is crazy. So now we are going to run off of our notes from last week because this is a recap episode. So we're going to go through the rankings as they were coming into this past Saturday. We will give you guys the updated rankings at the end. Do not worry, Tina. Okay? Just simmer down. We'll get to it. Okay? Now, number 1 in the nation, Georgia Bulldogs had a bye week. They will be playing Florida next week at the world's largest cocktail party. Word has it on the street that Georgia, even despite having the week off, had a slow first half. And then they turned it around. Moving on. Number 2, Michigan at Michigan State. Absolutely kept it rolling yet again. 49-0. Not even close. Do you see that crappy hit at the end of that game, by the way?
Dude, that guy should be suspended for the rest of the year, in my opinion. That's just unacceptable. You cannot body slam a guy laying on the ground with your helmet and shoulder.
Lest we forget the brawl in the freaking tunnel last year as well. In
Yeah.
my opinion, Michigan State at this point, if that's what they're doing, they need to suspend the whole freaking team for a year, make them
Yeah,
sit out.
you're getting to organizational control when you have crap like that going on year after year after year, so.
Me and you've talked about this. I mean, me and Casper are kind of corporate guys. We think from a corporate standpoint a lot, despite being a grunt at times. Um, Crap flows downhill. This is an issue within their organization. Players obviously think that it's okay to go out and do this stuff. Dude, in my opinion, they are to set the whole team out for a year, make them think about what they've done at this point. Because last year, they straight up basically assaulted a guy in the
Y'all
tunnel.
get arrested from that?
I don't remember, but they should have.
Dude, I actually got arrested from that. I mean, yeah, it's unacceptable, and Michigan State needs to figure that out for sure. I guess it sucks to be like the third best team in Michigan because Central Michigan's probably better too at this point.
This is the Spartans. Okay, moving on. Number 3, the Ohio State hosted Penn State. This turned out to be a phenomenal game. We were watching this one. Ohio State ends up getting the dub 20-12. The line was 4 points. This one went back and forth quite a bit. Really was a good game. We were watching this one on and off throughout, and it was looking like Penn State might have had something for them. Going into halftime, the game was 6-10. Ohio State was up. They were hanging with them, man, but then just at the end, outscored them in the fourth quarter 10-6 with the 20-12 lead. Both teams played pretty good. This was a good game. I will say, just off of the eye test alone, I really honestly think if Penn State played this one at home, they could have maybe grinded out the win. But Ohio State's 365 yards to Penn State's 240 helped them out. Penn State had 240 total. 191 of those was through the air. Ohio State had 286 through the air. Rushing was fairly similar. 49 for Penn State, 79 for Ohio State. Penalties was similar as well, and Ohio State actually turned the ball over. Penn State never turned the ball over. Played great. It just wasn't enough, man. So we'll get into Penn State's new ranking here shortly. But, this was a pretty good game. I don't know. Casper, real quick, do you think that this is better for Penn State or worse for Ohio State? I know that's a weird question, but
No, I understand what you're saying. I mean, I don't know, man. It's not really good for either team. Obviously, Penn State needed to win here. This win over Penn State by 8 does not sell me on Ohio State because I really don't know that Penn State's got that much going either. This is, the only test for Ohio State on the schedule this year other than Michigan. So, I mean, it is what it is. But, I mean, Penn State hadn't played anybody either. So, it is what it is. They didn't get it done. I agree with you. If this game's at Penn State, I don't know that they hold it together. I actually think Kyle McCord played one of his better games.
I think that this game looks better for Penn State than it does. I think this game looks better for Penn State than it does for Ohio State. Ohio State, they've been up in the top 4 or something all year. Played tight at home. Penn State's a good team, man, but I don't know. But Ohio State gets another win. Penn State moves on to having one loss in the loss column. But I'm gonna let you cue this one up real quick too. I'm doing something.
All right. Next up, we have number 4 Florida State hosts number 16 Duke Blue Devils. This game goes 20-38. Florida State wins. Riley Leonard was not sure he was going to play. Did indeed play. He was injured. He went out, I believe, in the third quarter. He only went 7 for 16 for 69 yards and threw an interception. Duke just never could really get anything going here. Their defense, fantastic. Defense scored a touchdown. They only had 2 touchdowns, and the defense scored one of them. So,
It's pretty
it
rough.
is what it is. Unfortunately for Duke and Carolina, which we'll talk about here shortly, the ACC Blue Schools, it's back to basketball season. Florida State, though, continues dominance. This is a big win for Florida State to get the 18-point win over Duke. They could, in my opinion, should pretty much roll through the rest of the ACC. So,
FSU looks good. I mean, they look like they're for real as long as they don't pull, Tennessee Vols and like lose against somebody that they shouldn't lose to towards the end of the season. I mean, they look great, man.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I'm putting them in my early, playoff race. But good on FSU, man. Duke drops to 2 losses on the year. FSU 7-0. Duke is now 5-2. Moving on, Washington hosts Arizona State in a surprisingly low-scoring game. This is one that we gave the green light on last week. Didn't even make a pick because Washington was favored by 26.5 points. Ended up only winning 15-7. They did win, however. That leaves them undefeated so far. Arizona State moves to 1-6 on the year. As far as this game goes, I mean, Michael Penix Jr. Was in the entire game. 200. Sorry, what?
2 picks.
Yeah, 275 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 picks. We were talking about him last week, like, hey, dude, that was a Heisman, caliber performance. Yeah. He's probably a shoe-in, da-da-da-da-da.
I kind of chalk this one up to a trap game, right? I mean,
a little bit. I don't think trap games are usually at home. Normally you figure you're going to get it done on the road, but, I mean,
if you look at their schedule, they had that big game against Oregon last week. Arizona State's 1-5 coming into this game. They didn't think they were going to have to play. They've got some tougher games. They've got Stanford, then USC, Utah, Oregon State. I just think this was like it's whatever. You get one game. This is their one bad game of the year, in my opinion. So it is what it is. As long as they go finish business, I still think they're a good team.
Yeah, Arizona State. 341 total yards to Washington's 288. Most of that for Washington was in the air. They only had 13 rushing yards. Now, your stat of the game for this one, okay, the better quarterback won, just to be fair. However, Michael Penix Jr.'s QBR was 41.4. Arizona State's Bourget, his QBR was 33.8. So, a struggle win is a struggle win. Hey, Washington, you guys are due one bad struggle win a year at least, right? So
they had to score, 12 points in the fourth quarter to win this game. This is a high scoring offense. So,
this game was 7-3 coming into the half, and then like Casper said, they put up 12 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, so
that one's rough.
If Washington goes and struggles again, maybe they have a problem. But I'm just kind of chalking this one up to it is what it is.
Speaking of trap games that are what they are, yet another one. Number 6 Oklahoma hosts UCF. This is yet another game that we didn't pick because Oklahoma was favored by 19 points. They pulled out the win, 31-29 against unranked UCF, which, by the way, just dropped to 3-4 after this game. Oklahoma struggles through, gets a win. This is another one that we were kind of watching. Oklahoma goes up 7-0 first quarter, and then in the second quarter, UCF starts balling out, and they go in tied 17-17. UCF scores 6 more points in the third quarter, and it's like, oh man, Oklahoma's looking like they might drop this one, and they just outscore them 14-6 in the final quarter for the eventual win. So, I mean, some of these top teams are struggling a bit this week. Like you said, call it a trap game, call it whatever you want. Both teams played pretty well. Gabriel for the Sooners played well. He had 253 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Still a pretty respectable game. Plumlee for UCF, he had a pretty good game, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, this was two teams that were just duking it out, and it came down to which team wanted it more, man. UCF, I'm pretty sure Gus Malzahn is their head coach. I think that they were actually interviewing him or whatever before the game, and he was like snickering because they were talking about upsets or whatever. But this was another one of those games that we brushed over, and then come to find out, it ended up being a pretty good game. So maybe telling for Oklahoma, but hey, struggle win's a struggle win, and yes, Gus Malzahn is the coach.
Yeah, wasn't this coming off an off week for Texas?
Yeah,
Red River was Red River last week or 2 weeks ago?
No, so
Yeah,
I was talking about this last week. Oklahoma beat Texas, came into a bye week, and we were talking about how they're in a perfect spot, dude. They won this big game. Now they got a bye week. They're going to fly under the radar, and then now they're struggling against UCF. So maybe that helps their case from the standpoint of laying low. But man, at the end of the year, this one might come back to bite them because, to quote T. Fitty, as bad as I hate to say it, at the end of the year, beating the spread matters, man. This is when it gets to the nitty gritty. That's the crap they look at. So
it doesn't matter that much. The biggest thing for them is to go undefeated. If they go undefeated, they're in.
It does. It does matter though. If you got 5 or 6 undefeated sitting there,
not happening.
This is what they start nitpicking on, man. I mean, look at what happened last year with a couple of those teams. The spread doesn't matter until it does, but that's going to be one that they're going to. Mark my words, end of the year, when Oklahoma's on the outside looking in, they're going to be saying, well, you see it. That's one of the games they're going to be talking about.
Maybe. Moving
on. Number 8, Texas at Houston. Texas ended up pulling out the win on the road at Houston. They do remain with 1 loss. After the loss to Oklahoma, they ended up getting this dub 31-24. This is another one that we didn't even pick because Texas was favored 23.5. Struggle wins, man. Must have been something in the air. Don't know.
Yeah. Week 8, tough week, man.
As Casper did note, Ewers got hurt towards the end of that game, or second half, right? I think. But he gets hurt, so maybe that's kind of what happened for Texas there. But either way, now Houston is a respectable team. I mean, they had a high-powered offense last year and everything. But Ewers had 211 through the air, 2 touchdowns before he got hurt. Malik Murphy came in, Ryan Sanborn come in. Neither of them really did much, but
Sanborn, by the way, he threw a pass. Who threw a pass. Yeah. What I want to say about Ewers is, look, man, you can't. You're possibly on a playoff run. You can't be dropping shoulders at freaking outside linebackers, bro. You can't do that. It's just a poor decision. You already had the first down. I mean, it was just like I've got a bigger, than you do. And I mean, I hate that he got hurt, but you got to be smarter than that as a quarterback, man. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. Do better.
Yeah, I mean that's part of leading your team, in my opinion. So we'll see what happens with Texas. If they don't have Ewers, that could be a struggle for them. Their schedule for the rest of the year, man, they got BYU, Kansas State, TCU. I think the biggest reason this game is close is this is just one of those in-state kind of rivalries. It's kind of like when Miami plays Florida. It is what it is. But
agreed.
They got the dub. That's what matters.
Houston's not a bad team. I mean, like I said, they had a high-powered offense last year. But moving on, number 9, Oregon hosted Washington State. They did walk out with the dub, 38-24. This one was somewhat interesting there for a little bit, man. Coming in halftime, it was 17-13. The Ducks just ran away with it in the second half, man. They were supposed to win by 20. They ended up winning by 14. Still a respectable win. Oregon, trying to bounce back after that loss a couple weeks back to Washington. They moved to 6-1 on the year. Washington State drops to 4-3. They had a promising season. Now they're starting to slide back a little bit. That's another game we didn't pick, because of the spread. But hate it for Washington, but Oregon doing what they got to do to try to stay within the top 10. Speaking of the top 10, number 10, North Carolina hosted Virginia. Yes, that was the 1-5 Virginia Cavaliers going up against the undefeated 6-0 North Carolina Tar Heels at home. Drake May, Heisman candidate, all the pomp and circumstance. They got who was Tez
Walker.
Got Tez Walker back. Dropped this game at home. This is probably one of the biggest upsets of the week. They lose 27-31. Now, Casper did warn us about this when oldest rivalry in the game, warned us.
Yep. This game
probably should have put money on that.
Yeah. Well, I told you. Just you heard it here. This is kind of the most Carolina thing to do. Basketball starts in 2 weeks. The football's probably gonna be bad. I would probably bet on them to lose the rest of the year more than likely. But this game right here, Drake May, we talked about Drake May last week, and I guess I set it up. He did throw a pick in this game. It was 24 for 48, okay? But I want to go that 24 for 48 with one interception. That's 24 incompletions with one interception. Talk to Pops, okay? He said this game was nothing but drops from the receivers. He said the only receiver that played the game worth a damn was Tez Walker. He had 11 receptions, 146 yards, 1 touchdown. Bryson Nesbitt was okay. Apparently, this dude, Tyson Chapman, dropped 4 touchdowns.
Bryson Nesbitt, 3 catches, 93 yards, 31 average, 1 tud.
He had one long catch. I'm just saying. Apparently, guys were dropping balls left and right, and that's how you end up with a completion of 24 to 48. That's ridiculous.
Still threw for 347, 2 tuds, 1 intercept. He still played great. Tez played great. Defense, they kind of didn't show up, I guess is just the best way to put it. Virginia had 436 total yards, 208 through the air, 228 on the ground. Carolina had more yards. Virginia even had 2 turnovers, man. So maybe it was just, like you said, a mind over matter that, just Virginia wanted it more, the drops. I was talking, maybe that's what jinxed it. I was talking good about Carolina. Like, man, they might go all the way and all that. Now problem is, they're only a 1-loss team, but that's a bad loss. They were favored to win 23.5.
Yeah. Another weird stat here that Pops wanted me to point out after our conversation is that we were on our second punter because the other one's got a groin injury. Tom Magnus, or whatever, however you say it, he averaged 32 yards a punt in Division I college football. That's just not going to work. We brought in the third string punter, Cole Maynard, and he punted 1 for 39 yards. None inside the 20. Virginia started this game. I was kind of looking through. I was looking through, and they started with good field position, basically midfield or better, basically the whole game. So
that's a good way to lose a football game.
Good way to lose a football game. So props to Virginia. Maybe they're going to wake it up. They kind of had a rough start to the year. Maybe they're going to wake up and go do something. We'll see. They got some tough ones coming up.
Speaking of a rough start, number 11 Alabama hosted number 17 Tennessee. The Crimson Tide absolutely got whooped in the first half. The Vols, man, just came out slinging. They had like 200 something yards in the first half alone. Bama had like virtually nothing. Going into halftime, Vols were up 20-7. So that was a good game for the Vols, right? If only we could just stop it right there. Nope. Did not score a single point in the second half. Bama come out slinging it. Ended up getting the dub 34-20. Yes, 27 unanswered points in the second half. This one was rough to watch. Me and Casper was together. Alcohol was involved. We got pretty upset about this one. The Vols played great the first half, man. It is what it is. Now, a lot of people were talking about penalties, this and that. There were some questionable penalties. And I talked about this on the other podcast, but one most notably to me was the defensive delay of game. That seemed a bit much, especially for what happened. A lot of people was talking about how apparently the head ref was a real estate agent down in Tuscaloosa and all that. Look, either way, Bama comes out, plays great in the second half. Milroe had a pretty good game, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Milton, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The Vols just couldn't get that running game going, man. They've been averaging like 200 and something plus yards a game. They've played phenomenal at least on the ground up to that point, but couldn't get it done. 404 yards total versus Bama's 358 total. Rushing, the Vols only had 133, which again, that's under par for their usual spot. Bama had more turnovers and everything, but it just, the Vols couldn't close it out, so the Vols dropped to 5-2 on the year. Bama remains at 7-1. This SEC conference is starting to take some shape. Thoughts on that one?
Kicked field goals in the red zone twice in the first quarter. Not going to win a football game at Alabama on the road. That's all I got to say about Tennessee aspect. As far as the Alabama aspect of this game, listen, let me own this. I'm going to own this like a man. I've talked crap about Nick Saban all year, said he's over. He's done. It's over. Guess what, boys? Bama's coming. They are now 7-1. Their only losses to Texas, who is probably a top 10 team, possibly a top 7 team. They're going to roll right on through here as long as they beat Georgia in the SEC championship. Bama and Georgia's both going back to playoffs. These crappy teams in the Pac-12, not really crappy, but just like we started this year talking about how SEC might not get anybody in, right? Washington barely wins. Arizona State. USC, done. USC's done. 2 losses, they're done. Utah's already got
Pretty much.
At this point in the Pac-12, the only one that's got a chance is basically Washington. Potentially Oregon if they go on, but I mean, it's
what? Yeah, I mean,
Saban. I saw a happy Nick Saban yesterday run off that field to score, and that scares me.
Oh yeah, Bama's pissed off, man. Watch out for Bama. Like I said, we both picked them, and we're Vols fans, so is what it is. Moving on, number 12, Oregon State had a bye week. Next week they're going to go up against Arizona. Ole Miss on the road at Auburn. This was a good game. It was a close game. For some reason, me and Casper kind of knew that this one was going to be close. The spread, they had Ole Miss at -6.5, but man, Auburn at home, you can't ever sleep on an SEC team at home. Ole Miss ended up grinding out the win. They got off to a good early start. For the most part, was able to keep it rolling. Ole Miss versus Auburn, they ended up pulling it out, 28-21. Ole Miss they're stumbling through it, man. They're 6-1. They're looking pretty good in a good spot in the SEC West. I cannot remember. Do what?
To finish second to Bama.
Well, I mean, I can't remember if they got to play each other again this year. I don't know if you got the schedule.
They already played Bama and lost 24-10.
Okay, that's their only loss.
They're kind of big games here. The rest of the year is Vanderbilt. No, I'm just kidding. Texas A&M and Georgia. So yeah, I mean, Ole Miss is kind of falling here because they're not going to beat Georgia. So
yeah, I mean, Auburn, man, Ole Miss had 425 yards total. Auburn had 275. Just couldn't get that offense rolling. Both teams had 2 turnovers, but it's hard to win ball games, man, when the other team's like doubling your output. But Auburn's first new head coach or whatever, Hugh Freeze. We're going to see what he can do down there. But Auburn moves to 3-4. Mississippi is 6-1 on the year. Moving on.
Hold on, fun stat. Only 35 passes thrown in that game, and they scored 49 points. That's actually pretty impressive.
that is impressive. Auburn's like one of those weird teams that they really don't. They're almost kind of like a high school team. They don't throw the ball that much, and they run it a lot. But it is weird. Number 14, Utah at number 18, USC. As we spoke before. Spoiler alert, Utah gets a tough win on the road, 34-32.
On the last minute field goal, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Caleb Williams, eat your heart out.
Caleb Williams drops to 0-3 all time, baby, versus Utah. And again, this is a Utah that is without Cam Rising.
Interesting stat on Caleb Williams. No touchdown pass. No passing touchdowns for Caleb Williams in this game.
And then last week he had 3 interceptions, I believe.
Yep.
So that's tough.
Like we said earlier, we don't have to go over too much, but USC's done. Put a fork in them. I told you. I picked the game. I said they're done. Utah's going to win. Put a fork in them. Down.
You did say that.
Yes.
You did say that.
Eat your heart out, Lee Corso.
Eat your heart out, Lee Corso. Just kidding. Don't. I love Lee Corso. So just keep doing whatever you're doing. So moving on to the next one. Notre Dame had a bye week. They're going to go up against Pitt next week. LSU hosted Army. They did a nice little tribute. They made the end zone camo. It was real cute, awesome. I'm all for it. Support the troops. That was pretty cool of them to do that. And then they turned around and just absolutely smacked them 62-0. But the end zones look cool. I guess they wanted to make them feel at home, so that that beating felt a little better. Don't really know.
Yeah.
But LSU goes on to go to 6-2. Army falls to 2-5. LSU still hanging around a little bit in the West, but some stuff's going to have to happen for them to have a shot.
Got to beat Bama. Not going to happen.
Got to beat Bama. Maybe it will happen. We'll see. Number 20, Mizzou. That's right. That's not a typo. Hosted South Carolina. Wasn't really even much of a game. 34-12. Me and Casper both picked Mizzou. No real surprise there. Mizzou sneaky good, man. You got to watch out for them. By the way, I was drinking a little bit last week. Mizzou is in the East, not the West. As Casper brought it back up to my attention, they are in the SEC East, at least for this year, which they're going to probably do away with divisions anyways. But Mizzou moves on to 7-1 on the year. South Carolina dropped to 2-5, man. That's 1-4 in the conference.
Spencer Rattler. That's your boy.
19.4 QBR on the game. 19.4. Isn't it like, the ACTs, if you write your name, you get like a few points or something. I mean, God.
That's what our buddy told me that tried to explain QBR to me a couple of days ago.
217 through the air, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, everybody's talking about Brady Cook like he's like, the second coming of Drew Lock or something. I don't know. 198 yards, 1 tud. But Mizzou did enough to get it done. Thoughts?
Next.
We'll see what Mizzou can do the rest of the year, baby. Next game, Air Force. This is a neutral site game, though, right? I think.
Yeah, I guess. I didn't.
It's Air Force at Navy, but I think this is a neutral site game.
Played at the Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. So, yes, it's in Annapolis. So, no, this game is at Navy, at the Naval Academy. Yep.
Okay. So, number 22, Air Force played Navy close. They were without their starting quarterback, right? I think we talked about that
Yeah,
last
he
week.
got hurt. He got hurt. Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways, they end up getting the win 17-6. This was actually a great game. This is one that we had on that we were watching passively while we had meats on the grill. Me and Casper both picked Navy to win for the upset. We were wrong. To those people out there that know us closely, we were wrong. See how we admitted that?
Yep.
It's not that hard. Doesn't even hurt. But Air Force stays at 7-0. They don't have a tough schedule, but they are undefeated. Curious to see how they go. Navy drops 3-4 on the year. Moving on, number 23, Tulane hosted North Texas. This was yet again kind of a struggle win. Tulane was favored by 20 points. Ended up getting the win, but it was 35-28. Me and Casper did both have Tulane, obviously, but it was a close game, man. You know, some struggle wins this week. This might be the weakest struggle wins.
That dude from North Texas, baller, threw for like 350 something yards. I saw it on ESPN this morning. 343 yards. Chandler Rogers, maybe he's got it. I don't know. We'll see.
Number 24, Iowa hosts Minnesota, and yet again another underwhelming scoring game. Iowa did drop this one 10-12 on a questionable end of the game. Casper, you kind of had the breakdown on that.
Yeah,
punt.
we already went up that punt. I forgot that Minnesota's ranked. Guys, let's talk about Minnesota real quick for just a second, though. This win over Iowa.
Well, they wasn't ranked when they played Iowa. Number 24, Iowa.
24 Iowa. I apologize. Minnesota, though, if you look at the standings for the Big Ten, okay, Minnesota 2-2, like they could still maybe do something if they beat Wisconsin. Maybe they play Michigan. I mean,
some things were shaking up a little bit. I mean,
what happens.
It's kind of weird. Iowa drops to 6-2 on the year. Minnesota 4-3. Interesting. So we know what happens with these two teams. Iowa has virtually no offense, man. It just if you can put up points on it, their defense is stout. If you can put up points on them, it's just. Moving on, number 25, UCLA at Stanford. I almost was going to take Stanford spread at 17. I don't know why. I felt like maybe that they could come in and sneak in and get one. Glad I didn't take that bet, though. Wasn't even close. UCLA 42-7. This one was just over before it even started, pretty much. It was, just not even competitive. No point in really even talking about it. UCLA goes to 5-2 on the year. Stanford is 2-5. The picks for this week ended up being Drewski. I was 8-3. Casper went 7-4. So we did awesome. High five. Boom. Yes, that's what you want.
One more thing about UCLA.
I'm ready.
Colorado's back, baby.
Colorado's back.
We'll find out. 7:30. ABC.
We'll see. We will see. I am curious to see what they do with the full week off. If they can get healthy, it might be dangerous. So, with that being said, we're going to read to you the most up-to-date Week 9 rankings, baby, of the top 25. Are you ready, Casper?
I'm ready.
Okay, Georgia ranked first. Michigan second, which, again, you're going to have to watch what's going on with that cheating scandal. Ohio State is third. Florida State fourth. Casper, you cool with that top four? Or you think there should be a difference?
I guess I'm cool with it for now, but I mean, that's still my playoff four. You know, I'm still Ohio State's losing to Michigan's put Washington or Oklahoma in, probably Washington.
I am curious to see how it goes. Speaking of that, number 5, Washington. Number 6, Oklahoma. All of those teams are undefeated. However, Michigan is 8-0. Everybody else is 7-0. Number 7, Texas. Number 8, Oregon. Number 9, Alabama. Number 10, Penn State. Number 11, Oregon State. Number 12, Ole Miss. Number 13, Utah. between 7 and 13, all of those teams are one loss. Can we get to this 12-game playoff already? My goodness, been some good football. So number 14, Notre Dame, they are 6-2. 15, LSU, they are also 6-2. Now, strangely enough, we talked about Carolina last week. In my opinion, possible snub. Number 16, Mizzou. I mean, they're 7-1. Only loss was against. I know we talked about it. Who did they lose to?
Hold on, I'll find it.
It was a decent. It was a decent team.
Yeah,
Casper's gonna look up.
LSU. It was at no, LSU came to. They lost to LSU. Yeah.
Yeah, lost to LSU, which is I guess maybe that's why they put them above Mizzou, but
Yeah.
interesting. But they are 16th. Number 17, North Carolina. North Carolina had the biggest move out of anybody in the top 25. They dropped 7 spots, which is kind of shocking a little bit because they lost to Virginia, who is just not really been very good at all. But
that Virginia loss hurts, but also what kind of I decided last week on their snub is their overall strength of schedule is just not there, man. It's not there.
Yeah. But, Carolina dropped to 17th. Number 18, Louisville still hanging around at 6-1. Air Force slid up to 19th. They are still 7-0. To be honest with you, that's probably fair, though, because of who they play. They also don't really play anybody else the rest of the year. So if they remain undefeated, kind of curious to see how that shakes out. I don't know that they break the top 10. Casper's kind of 50-50. I just don't know that they got strength of schedule. There's going to be a lot of good one-loss teams sitting up there, but we'll see. Number 20, Duke. They slid all the way down to 20th. They are now 5-2. Respectable losses, but still. Number 21, Tennessee, 5-2. Number 22, Tulane, 6-1. Number 23, UCLA, 5-2. USC is at 24th. They are 6-2. And then James Madison, number 25, at 7-0. Who was it? Somebody was it? I feel like we were talking about somebody, and they were like, "No, James Madison got snubbed" or something. We were talking to somebody. I feel like.
I don't know.
Maybe that was T Video that was telling that story about James Madison.
Probably drunk. I mean, James Madison. I just looked at their schedule. They don't play anybody. I mean,
no, kind of a Boise State situation, but
them and Air Force are in the same kind of bag there. I was looking to see. I mean, James Madison's one notable win is over Virginia. So, and Virginia and Marshall. So they pretty much need Virginia to win out, and then they've got App State at the end of the year, but App State's not really done much this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. But other teams sitting on the bubble, Florida's hanging around. They've got 34 votes. They're on the outside looking in. Liberty with 17 votes. Kansas State with 16. Miami with 12. Fresno State has 8. Oklahoma State, Toledo, Rutgers, Kentucky, UNLV, and Wisconsin all have 5 or less votes. The only team that dropped out of the rankings was Iowa, previously ranked 24th. So anything that sticks out to you on this top 25 this week? The rankings? I mean, you okay with everything for the most part?
I mean, yes and no. I really don't understand how Notre Dame's still up here, frankly. I know they had an off week this week. Utah, I think Utah's getting snubbed being down there. I think they should be up there.
Right now, USC's dragging that Notre Dame win down a little bit, just to be honest with you, the way they've been playing as of late.
But, no, I mean, I'm okay with it overall, I guess. Air Force and James Madison, I am curious to see if one of them cracks top 10 if they go undefeated. They both could go undefeated, so we'll see.
I am curious as well to see how it goes, but for the most part, I feel like it's kind of fair. The only question, I feel like Carolina should have maybe dropped a little further.
Yeah.
Air Force, still not sold on, but for the most part, it is what it is. We're going to see what happens over the next few weeks. But this has been the CFB Top 25. Anything you want to add, Casper Rooney?
Nope. Been a great week. Looking forward to another week of football next weekend. We'll see how it goes. We'll have another show on Friday. Y'all be sure to tune in and listen.
We will have another show on Friday. I hope y'all's Monday is awesome. Have a good one. We will catch you guys on Friday.